about what's going on in the war, you will have seen reports of the massacre, Israel's massacre of Palestinian civilians trying to get to humanitarian aid provided by Israel. Yeah, that was in the news throughout the day. Now we know stories of massacres of Palestinians by Israel. There's a story, and they, have an inflated number, and then it turns out that, uh, it was actually inflated, and it was maybe terrorists, or it was actually, like with the El Ali hospital bombing in October 17th of 2023. It turns out it's actually a Palestinian rocket that was uh, targeted at killing Jews, ended up killing Palestinians. Therefore, it was news. This news today is unique, even as reports of Israel massacring Palestinians go, because it turns out that not a single shot was fired by Israel, and this story is entirely made up. Now, stories that are entirely made up show up a lot on X and on TikTok. I'm sure we're banned, so I don't really know, but I assume so. But this was in mainstream media and everywhere in mainstream media. No questions were asked. The numbers were given by the Gaza Health Ministry, and it was reported by everyone. Of course, the BBC in this country that has a legal obligation of impartiality also repeated it. And yeah, as we said a few weeks ago, when the 14,000 babies are about to die in 48 hours story came out, it doesn't matter if any of it is true, if part of it is true, if the people who are being held responsible are actually, or the people claiming to be victims are actually the people who are responsible. None of that matters as long as it's out there, as long as another reason to hate Israel, to hate Jews is out there. And again, uh, these stories are headline news. The corrections are, page 17 or whatever the equivalent is in a website. Welcome to the Daily Objective. Another day, another fake massacre. I'm joined by Mark Pellegrino. Mark, uh, your thoughts on this story? It's morning where you are, so you haven't had the whole day to digest this story, be angry at Israel for massacring people on their way to the food line. So yeah, where do you stand on this?
I'm just I can't believe I'm still surprised that these blood libels are pushed out there and so readily believed by organizations that are supposedly prestigious like the BBC. That's what the report that I read, where they literally claim that it wasn't just Israeli soldiers firing into a crowd of hungry Palestinians, mind you. It was Israeli tanks drove up to the scene. Israeli tanks drove up to the scene, and everyone started firing pell-mell into this group of poor Palestinians who just wanted food. Now, I mean, it just seems outrageous on the face because Israel is subject to such deep scrutiny by every country on the face of the earth, and more or less maligned by every state in the United Nations. So there's a great deal of scrutiny on Israel, and despite what you and I think and how much more aggressively they should pursue the war, they pursue the war understanding that the scrutiny often works against them and that every move they make is under a microscope and subject to, I don't know, possibly some false accusation in the Court of International Justice or some other fake organization. And so they actually prosecute the war with that in mind. So it seems absolutely pathological that a state who understands that they're under the microscope of the world would just suddenly pull up with tanks and guns and start firing pell-mell into a crowd of hungry citizens. It seems like it would be unbelievable. And yet, the pathology of that move is accepted by the general population, and at least the population of journalists, as being completely in keeping with the Israeli state of mind and with Jewishness, betraying their total anti-Semitism, by the way. But thank God for people like Eitan Fishberger. Is that how I pronounce his name? Because he has footage. He has footage, folks. He has the receipts. There were cameras in the area documenting the entire thing at the exact time that the massacre was supposed to happen. And go figure, nothing was going on except hungry Palestinians getting the resources that they don't deserve, but nonetheless we're getting from the U.S. Run humanitarian aid service that's now delivering the food to them in order to keep it out of the hands of Hamas. So go figure, folks. Nothing happened. But is there a retraction from BBC? I mean, I just got this news, but I don't know that there's been a retraction from the BBC yet. And usually it doesn't matter, right? Because the damage has already been done. The news goes viral. The anti-Semites take it. The pro-Palestinian movements and the pro-Pali bots from Malaysia take it. And they circulate it all around the world so that everybody can now hate the Jews a little bit more for their bloodthirsty heartlessness. I mean, it's blood libel bullshit, man.
I haven't seen a retraction, Daniel. Maybe you can check if there has been one, but like you said, it doesn't matter. With the 14,000 babies, there was some sort of retraction or something like that, with the documentary.
The retraction was it was actually a projection over the course of a year or something like that. That was the retraction, but
Yeah.
they didn't retract the number completely.
Yeah, and in that retraction, they did say, we reported this and then we looked into it. That's not the order of things, people. You look into it and then you report it. And yeah, I get that you want to be first to report something, but you're reporting a lie. So you don't want to be first, second, or last. You just don't want to report it. Daniel says, no, it's still up. That is not at all a surprise. Yeah, when the BBC had a Hamas-produced documentary, they then later retracted it. They took it down, and people are still upset about it. The story when they reported the 500 Palestinians killed in El Ali hospital in a bombing that just happened, and they somehow counted 500 bodies in a few minutes. They kind of retracted it later, but today you will still see stories that say, Israel says it was a Palestinian Islamic Jihad rocket. The Palestinians say it was a bombing, and we have footage, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter to these people at all. Thank you, Soupy Cask, for the super chat. Soupy Cask asks, how often do leftists go after Jews explicitly in rhetoric, like saying Jews are, quote, white adjacent and, quote, privileged, and guilting them for that? I think anti-Semitism on the right is usually has less of those filters. They're less diplomatic. They're less used to saying not exactly what they mean. But there is a lot of that, and there is more and more. And again, I don't know how I can really
Oh,
quantify it.
the left is screamingly anti-Semitic right now. They're for them, the Jews of Israel are white colonizers. So clearly, the 99% of the people of those people saying that who don't know which river and which sea Palestine is supposed to be free in, also have never been to Israel and seen and seen what Israelis look like. They don't know the racial diversity that exists there. That, guess what, doesn't exist in the West Bank, doesn't exist in the Arab world, does not exist in Gaza either. After they kicked out 8,000 Jews, folks. That's the true apartheid state. That's the true state with no diversity. That's also the true colonial power, if you really want to talk about it. Imperialistic Arabic expansion and the Arabization of that whole region in North Africa and Asia, that is imperialism. Not one tiny little sliver of a state the size of New Jersey, folks, where people just want to stay and live in peace and be free from persecution. That's not imperialistic. A state that has remained the same size since its founding. That's not imperialistic. The imperialistic powers surround it and want to gobble it up and eat it, and that's the ones you should be looking at, folks.
But can non-white people be imperialist? I know they can't be racists. So yeah, and
I
that's
guess
the
not.
thing.
They're also not genociders, even though they kill hundreds of thousands of their own people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and others, and yeah,
And they also can't have slaves, even though they do have slaves. And it's an inconvenient truth that Berber pirates and Muslims during the Muslim conquest enslaved millions of white Europeans. I mean, that's it's got to be off the table as well.
thank you, Jonathan, for the super chat. Ram says they blame Israel for not allowing them to verify the claims. Yeah, that is a common thing. Israel doesn't let in journalists. So, we're reporting what Hamas says as if it's news and then not reporting what Israel says. Now, Israel always does this thing where it takes them forever. They just put out some sort of official statement saying, no, it wasn't us. And there may have been some shooting somewhere that was Hamas and was recorded, but there was a wider issue here, which is, you and I have spoken about it. We're in agreement, as is everybody on this channel. Humanitarian aid to Gaza should not be sent in by Israel, who is the victim in this war. They are the targets of this war, and they are feeding their enemy. But this mechanism is working in achieving its goal, which is to get food to Gazans who might otherwise not get it, have to buy it from Hamas, have to somehow Hamas, basically are dependent on Hamas's generosity. Which first thing, it does raise the question: where were you for the past 19 months when you were feeding Hamas knowingly? And now you're kind of managing to more or less filter some of that out. But yeah, also we see the panic in Hamas doing stuff like this. This has been days of attempts at misinformation and at, of course, getting their useful idiots in the West to share certain images like people standing in line for free food and that being somehow like the Holocaust. Uh, but yeah, they are now very much panicking. Look, they have the hostages. So in terms of the negotiations, another thing I think we're in agreement shouldn't happen, negotiations for a hostage deal. In terms of that, Hamas has the upper hand no matter what, because for Israel, the hostages are bringing them back home is above everything. It shouldn't be, but that's what it is. But this weakens them in the negotiation, as does military action. Israel doing both of these at the same time, rather than doing it through Hamas. Yeah, that is they are clearly very, very worried.
Okay, so in the scheme of bad things that America and Israel do, this is less bad because at least it's cutting out Hamas as the middleman. It's making the Gazan people a little bit more independent from Hamas, and maybe that will be a little bit of a wake-up call for the people of Gaza. Maybe it'll start more of a internal protest and rebellion against this evil regime, and they can join hands with their Israeli brothers and sisters and kill Hamas. That's what has to be done to Hamas. They have to not exist anymore. Sorry, folks. That's just the way it has to be. The ones living in their chateaus in Qatar, they need to go. They all need to go. Even if they get out, if Israel allows the leadership to be exiled to other places, I pray, if to the God I don't believe in, that the Mossad hunts them down and takes them out because there is no other solution for Hamas, but their date was 72 virgins.
Yeah, and that brings us to PC's super chat. Thank you, PC, for the super chat. PC says Razi, the dodo is waiting for that group. Yeah, unfortunately, Israel is trying to make sure that group is still alive and well. And look, if the war were to end right now, uh, Israel has changed the situation on the ground from what was there on October 6th, 2023. But much like what Israel did in Lebanon, which is a tremendous achievement, it stopped short of completing the job. So Hezbollah is still there in Lebanon and could and will regroup and rise again. Certainly, if Iran is not taken care of, and so will whatever form Palestinianism takes in Gaza, whether it's Hamas, again, building themselves up, whether it's Palestinian Islamic Jihad becoming the main group there, whether it's the Palestinian Authority, i.e. Fatah, giving us a secularized version of the jihad. That is kind of where Israel is leaving things. And look, we're hearing more about the negotiations with Iran about it really looks like Iran is constantly saying no, and Trump is constantly begging them, which is very weird. It can in some way understand when Israel does this when it comes to the hostages. It's not right, but it's kind of more understandable. The lives of the hostages, is something that Israelis want to save, and they understand that, they're also suffering and potentially dying there. Here, there is no reason. Iran wants to avoid military action, which it is guaranteed to lose if there's a war between, the US and Israel on one side and Iran on the other. And they're saying no. And America is constantly begging. And remember what this deal would get ultimately for the West. Let's imagine that Iran is actually going to be honest about it. Let's imagine, which of course they won't. Let's imagine that the US can go and make sure that Iran isn't building a nuke. All you're doing then is keeping alive the regime that oppresses the people of Iran and that funds terrorism elsewhere. Because this is all about the only demand from Iran is to not build or appear not to build a nuclear bomb. There's no demand about not funding terrorism. There's no demand about treating their own citizens like human beings. So I don't understand why this is even happening, and the results of it is something we will keep seeing elsewhere, and of course certainly in the Middle East, but potentially closer to home.
Yeah, I mean, you could see some reasoning for it maybe 3 or 4 years ago when America thought that Iran was potentially an actual military power to be contended with. But after Israel completely decimated Iran and exposed it as a paper tiger, they have literally no negotiating stance. They can't negotiate. They've been exposed as being totally weak. Right now, they're just posturing to try to make up for the fact that everybody in the world knows they suck and can't defend themselves. And so even a pragmatist like Trump should understand that he holds all the cards and that Iran holds none of them. So what is the problem? That is really the question. With even a pragmatist like Trump, he's a zero sum guy. He's a power luster. He should understand. He's got enough predatory instincts to know that Iran is standing on top of a glass house that's easily shatterable. So take advantage of that. And don't and first of all, they shouldn't negotiate with them at all. Hamas shouldn't be negotiated with them at all. But as you say, it's understandable because Israelis are trying to get the hostages back. So they're unfortunately subject to the whims of these psychopaths in Hamas. But we don't have to negotiate at all with Iran. We don't have to do anything except take out their nuclear sites completely, and then their oil distribution sites, and let them deal with the economic problems that brings their way. And that should, I think, excite the liberal folks in Iran to throw off the yoke of the mullahs and the morality police and start hanging them from cranes, and then build a civil society on their own. Yeah, that's what I think.
Yeah, I agree. But one thing, people in our audience, not the trolls, didn't agree with is how much time we spent yesterday on trolls. But look, they're just, they're providing us some good content, and we want to provide good content in return. So look, some of this, so somebody says, dude on the right, I believe that's me, is volunteering our military men to die for his country's personal interest. What in the, um, we're building a nuclear bomb, we're chanting death to America combo, do you not understand as an American interest? I mean, this they're not ambiguous. They're not some group that's trying to pretend like they're not who they are. They're telling you who they are, and they're telling you they want you dead, and they're telling you that they're building what they will achieve that goal with.
Yeah, not only that, they declared war on America in 1979. They did invade American soil in the embassy in 1979. They held American hostages for 444 days. They've killed American soldiers in Lebanon. They've killed American soldiers in Syria. They've killed American soldiers. They've killed Americans. And they fund terroristic activities all around the world. And they inspire lone wolf terrorists who have murdered Americans here in America. So, yeah. We want to end the scourge. Now, you may be comfortable with that degree of violence, or you may think the violence is across the sea and has nothing to do with you, my friend, but it does. It actually does. And if Iran gets a nuclear weapon, it will want to use it at first against Israel and then against us because it has that's its bone. We are the great Satan, my friend, and they get cachet. They get the status in their community as they've gotten status since 1979 and been an inspiration to every Islamist movement in the world. Imagine the status they would get if they could pop a nuclear bomb into Manhattan. Ah, the status they would get. That's all they care about. So come on, man. Get real. Get over yourself. Drop your
Well,
anarchism or communism or whatever it is that makes you think that we shouldn't be fighting this war.
it's not communism. That's the thing. It actually well, Supicast, this is not a scientific answer to your question. It's anecdotal. But this guy also said, "Sorry, dude on the right, the stains on your people will be felt for generations." I don't know if by your people he means people who don't understand that Israel needs to withdraw to the 1967 borders and abide by UN resolutions 242 and 338. I kind of doubt that, but later on he does say we voted for America first, not Israel first, or something to that effect. So yeah,
Yeah,
this is
well, you voted for America first. I believe that America should be first, but not in the way that Trump's doing it for sure. That's not the way America first is expressed. It's not expressed in isolationist, mercantilistic philosophy, and using the big stick of American dollar diplomacy to beat up other countries to force them to your will. That's not America first, friend. So we should have a discussion about what that means. But it is certainly prioritizing American lives and civilization as a whole to take out Iran's nuclear facility at the very minimum, and then to take out their oil distribution capacity at the very minimum, so that they suffer economically enough, so that the good people of Iran, and there are many of them who are liberal and want to take over that state and make it a secular democracy again, so that they then have the power to do it because the mullahs are too uncomfortable because they no longer have the power. They have no economic power and they don't have any political base anymore. So that's what has to happen if we want the world and America in particular to be safer. So if you don't think that Iran has already declared war on America, there's something wrong with you. And if you don't think that taking out nuclear sites that could be a threat to American lives after Iran has been responsible directly and indirectly for the deaths of thousands of American citizens, there's something fucking wrong with you.
yeah, and like you say, there is a big liberal, decent population in Iran, more than anywhere else in the Middle East. Iran is the biggest threat to humanity in the Middle East at the moment, for sure. And yes, I mean humanity. Jews count as part of humanity, despite what some of the people in the chat think.
Jews,
But it's
Arabs,
all of humanity.
all
Um,
of humanity. Look, they've
but
been in Syria, they've been in Lebanon, they're in Gaza, they're funding the Houthis in Yemen. They fund terrorist attacks all around the world. This is an evil regime that is a threat to every person on the planet, so long as they are allowed to be the crazy person in the room with the gun. Take out the crazy person in the room with the gun.
And that's the thing. They're the biggest threat now. They will be the best friend of the West, other than Israel, or maybe even a better friend in the Middle East, potentially, if this regime is removed. So yeah, the negotiation shouldn't happen. But like we say, this is layers of wrong decisions upon layers of wrong decisions. First of all, yes, the nuclear threat is first and foremost, but removing the regime is has to be a part of that. And Supicast also asked, would America's leadership even be capable of winning a war with Iran? We have the technology, but do not have strong enough leaders to use it. I think America taking out Iran's nuclear weapons program that is doable, even with the current leadership.
I
Will they
think I
go
think
on a regime
I think
change
taking
war after Trump said we're not going to impose our values on the West, on the world? I don't know, and that's
Hey,
a shame. It could be like
America
a
first,
yeah.
America first, or that in itself should tell you what kind of leader you elected. We don't want to impose our values on the rest of the world as if all values are equal. That should tell you who you elected. And I think taking out the nuclear sites is perfectly within our capability to do. It's certainly perfectly within the capability of Israel and even their oil distribution site. And I say that because the mullahs need to lose their economic base entirely. It needs to be wiped out from underneath them because in some respects, that's what funds their not in some respects, it's what entirely funds their terrorist base. It's what keeps them militarily viable and makes their own people fear them. So take that out from them, and the mullahs have nothing except their robes and their turbans, and and that's it.
Yeah, and remember, Iran during this war attacked Israel directly twice, and in both cases it was a lot of ammunition, but probably not the best that they have. And that was not much of a surprise. I think it was a surprise when Israel did their kind of very minimal responses, just how easy it was to do that, to take out Iran's air defenses, to fly around Iranian airspace, like it's Israeli airspace, or maybe even safer because no threat of Houthi missiles. It was a surprise, and yeah, I do think look, I don't know the details of the program. I think Israel probably alone could do a tremendous amount of damage. Uh, I don't see that happening, although I think, if there is a hill to die on, this is it. But I don't see Netanyahu doing that without
I think
Trump's
he'll be
approval.
forced to. I think he'll be forced to if it's clear that Iran is inches away from getting a nuclear weapon. Israel is this is a threat to their metaphysical existence. So, as power hungry as he is, and as much as he wants to stay in power, that may be a motivation for him because Iran could likely use that weapon against them.
Um, another example from our chat of anti-Zionism is not anti-Semitism. I just don't understand why the Jews think infiltration and subversion are good survival strategies. It always ends in the same way. The people get tired of it. You'd think after 2,000 years you'd know.
Infiltration and subversion. What are they talking about?
They don't
What are
elaborate.
they? What are you talking about, troll? Can you please be more specific? Do you mean immigrating from Europe and starting a legitimate state is somehow infiltration and intrusion? Is that? Are they're like a poisonous species of plant that has been brought over inadvertently by somebody and now is taking over an entire region? Is that what you mean? What do you mean, anti-Semite? Please try to be clear.
Well, this was a few minutes ago. I'm now scrolling. I missed a bunch of stuff, but I do see another comment from this person. That I don't know if this was the next one or if there were more in between. That's because there were no never-ending wars before the Jew. Mark, you're a student of history. Uh, Is that a correct statement?
Who is this guy? I'll tell you when there were we're in never-ending wars now because of this silly concept that you can sanitize war. So there hasn't been the will on the part of any Western power since World War II to actually defeat the bad guys. We only bring them to a point of ceasefire and then we drop out. We don't ever defeat them. It was one of the reasons why communism is still an active ideology today in America, because we decided never to defeat it on the battlefield in Korea and in Vietnam and in the various other battles that we engaged in that were indirect fights with the Soviet Union in Central and South America. We just decided not to fight wars the way they have to be fought, which is to defeat the enemy completely, to repudiate its ideology in the face of the world, because we have sanitized war. Now, I just want to tell this anti-Semite something. War is the abolition of civil society. If you believe in rights, don't start a war because you have abolished the concept of rights, because you have now claimed I can get what I want by the use of violence, murder, rape, mayhem, by violating all decent rules of civilization. You have thrown them aside for war, and you can't sanitize it. The crime is starting the war. The defenders defending themselves with vigor until the bad guys are completely eliminated. That's their moral objective. That's what decent people have to do, and that's what no Western power has been allowed to do since just war theory took control of the military, and since war now must be sanitized and plagued with quote unquote rules that happen to benefit the bad guys who exploit those rules, because the only ones who follow them are the good guys who can never defeat the bad guys completely because of those rules. Remove that and understand that war is the crime, and that the victim of that crime has a complete and absolute right to total self-defense and end the threat permanently, that that's his only moral obligation. And then you will start to see wars ending rather quickly, and crazy Islamist organizations or communist organizations not being able to pull the shenanigans that they've been able to pull for the last 75 years.
I have to say, I'm seeing the results of feeding trolls by the stuff that they keep saying. Then again, it's these trolls are helping promote Zionist propaganda, so we
Thank
might
you, Charles.
yeah, we
Thank you,
might
Charles.
you might feed them while they do that. I don't, on the one hand, I don't want to be accused of false advertising. We had a certain title for the show and a topic. The problem is we want to do a full show, and what we have to say about the topic is you read it in the news, turns out it didn't happen at all, and that's pretty much it. There's a security footage, but sitting and watching that, we can put Daniel, if you have that handy, we can put the link to
Maybe
that.
they can
That's
put it up while we're talking about it, because it's security footage. It goes on for about 4 or 5 minutes during the exact time that the massacre was supposed to be happening. So look for yourselves, anti-Semite trolls. Do you see tanks rolling in? Do you see Israeli soldiers firing on the hungry people? If you do, please inform me, because the camera sweeps around the area and I see none of that going on, but maybe you do. Maybe your fevered imagination, so filled with blood libels, sees those tanks, those ghost tanks, those imaginary tanks coming up and opening up their their firing on these poor people. Please show me where they are, because I don't see them.
Mark, you are severely underestimating the ability of trolls to, how did Reagan put this, to know so much that isn't so. I think it was his words. Look, there are pictures of Gazans. I see this again on Twitter, which that always, when I say Twitter, there's always an asterisk on that. But look, I see pictures of masses of people, and then somebody saying this is like the Holocaust. Masses of people somewhere walking. It doesn't have to be humanitarian aid, it's just people. So yeah, and look, this became news. So, and it became news because there are people like this who will basically, lap it up and
Ozzy, people get displaced in war, but when the Jews have to displace people in war, it's ethnic cleansing. People get displaced in war, but when the Jews do it to save Palestinians' lives, it's ethnic cleansing and genocide. If they were to keep those people in the areas in which they are fighting, they would be accused again of genocide. These are not new accusations. These have been going on from the very, very beginning. It's an old tape that these people are just rehashing, replaying, and they know that if they play it long enough, and enough trolls and parasites like the people who are talking on this chat pick it up and magnify the message, that message becomes the truth to people just because of the frequency with which it's being posted. And that's it.
uh okay, a few more comments. Leo says, Razi, you said you were going on a live trip across the US. How about holding a series of live shows all over the Fertile Crescent? No, thank you. And we're not doing a tour of the US. We're doing an event on July 1st in Boston. Link will be in the chat in the description. And we're doing an event in later on in the year in California, which we will announce. But yeah, no, well, I do hope that there will come a day when we do this in Gaza Stadium, which is gonna be, the actually freed Gaza, where we can all yeah, have an audience of 100,000 people for the show. Let's hope that day comes, but right now, no, thank you. Traveling to the one place in the Middle East that I do travel to is tough enough as it is. Um, yeah. Mark, anything to add?
Well, how great it would be if you could travel around the Fertile Crescent and not risk dying because you're a Jew. How great that would be. What a world it would be when the Arabs lose their hatred of the Jews and they get over their butthurt over losing the war in 48 and start moving on. Start moving on. And Palestinians drop the Palestinian identity, which is solely a political identity. It has nothing to do with actual ethnicity. It's just about a movement. It's a political movement. Once they drop that movement, folks, then there's the opportunity for them to be free. And if you think the Arabs have ever wanted a free Palestinian state, you are mistaken. It's the Jews that have been trying to help them get a state, and the Palestinians who have been self-owning for the past 50 years, and the Arabs who have done squat to help the Palestinians get a free state. They've just used it as a cudgel to beat up Jews with. That's all on the international stage, nothing more.
There's a side story that I wanted just to mention, which was reported today that the BBC has suspended Ahmed I don't know how to pronounce it, but somebody who was reporting for BBC in Arabic from Gaza, one of those journalists, uh, after he said Israelis are not human. Um, and has a history of anti-Semitic statements. That's not funny because again, the BBC is considered by people who probably in most of their life are reasonable people a legitimate source of news. And and this is what they do with that legitimacy that they have as a relic of something that may have been somewhat true in the past or something that is just on paper supposed to be true and therefore we accept it. But look, the BBC again reported this today because it came from an official source. The official source, Hamas. The people who did October 7th have something that's called the Gaza Health Ministry. Therefore, it's official sounding. It's the actual government there, and they will report it. Mark, I think we have a report that may or may not be from the BBC. Let's see this. And yeah, Daniel, go ahead.
Tom, I'm currently 10 miles outside of Beaverton, unable to get inside the town proper. We do not have any reports of fatalities yet, but we believe that the death toll may be in the hundreds of millions. Beaverton has only a population of about 8,000, Tom, so this would be quite devastating. Any word on how the survivors in the town are doing, Mitch? We're not sure what exactly is going on inside the town of Beaverton, Tom, but we're reporting that there's looting, raping, and yes, even acts of cannibalism. My God, you've actually seen people looting, raping, and eating each other. No, we haven't actually seen it, Tom. We're just reporting it.
We're just reporting it. Yep, that is the BBC
That's
policy. Yeah,
amazing.
people have seen this clip. People who watch the show every day have seen this clip in the last 20 months, dozens of times probably on this channel, and unfortunately will continue to see it. Although, one of the things that people also hear me say all the time is, "I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong." And tomorrow I wake up and the BBC is actually reporting the news. But until they do that and stop reporting like the guy from fictional Channel 4, which is very similar to actual Channel 4 in the UK. We will keep playing that clip. PC, thank you for the super chat. I am going to plead the fifth on that question, but thank you. Thank you for the
What's the
support.
question?
I'll tell you off the air. Mark, any thoughts? Any parting thoughts? I think yeah, unless the trolls come in with some late. Oh yeah, trolls. If you actually want to tell us why we're wrong on what we said on the topic of the show at the beginning of the show, if it's actually interesting, we will read that. If it's actually not just a troll comment, but a comment challenging the facts. But yeah, any
Yeah,
thoughts?
demonstrate that you have a brain cell, an actual living brain cell, a functioning brain cell, and we will read your comment here and we'll discuss it like men. Otherwise, I'm just going to make fun of you and slap you around the way you deserve to be. No, I have nothing further to say about this other than I hope the BBC has enough integrity to retract this entire fake report. And I can't say that this hasn't done a great deal of damage. Of course, it has. We already know the pro-Palestinian trolls and the anti-Semites around the world, and there are way too many of them, have picked up this story and have magnified it. So now it is becoming the truth to many people out there. And the retraction will be small, it'll be slight, it'll be a blip in the universe, and this will come and circulate itself around again as a truth, as a part of the narrative. And we'll see it in the future, and it'll be a part of the reason why people excuse themselves for hating Jews and hating the state of Israel. I can only hope that the journalistic community starts getting a little bit of integrity and actually starts trying to see outside the prism of their own ideologies and their own hatred, and tries to give the rest of us news as it is. I hope they just try to report what's happening in the world instead of what they wish would happen, hope would happen, or think happens as a result of their own prejudices and bigotry. So I'm hoping against hope, but we know the truth and we report the truth here, and that matters.
Thank you, Soupycast, for the super chat. Soupycast asks, does Britain really need four channels? Look, those channels, once Britain doesn't need the government involved in television, and needs to let the market decide how many channels are economically viable, and that will be the number of channels Britain should have. Um, okay, Chandler, I'm
They
not going to
also,
be
they
that
also
super.
maybe they also might do themselves a service by arresting imams who talk about murder and mayhem in their mosques instead of, grannies on social media who get somebody's panties in a wad. They might want to, sort of try to control that. How about that?
I mean, I would do more than that. Again, I've said, and I'm sure this is controversial even among our audience, but I think the Free Palestine movement should be treated like NAMBLA should be treated. I don't know if that's how they're treated, which is they have a right to say what they say, but the government is supposed to stop, what they're saying from being implemented, especially when they're clearly
Well,
targeting a group of people. And so look into those people in advance. Don't look into them after they shoot two Jews, and then shout "Free Palestine," and then you're like, oh, maybe this is a murderous. No, this is already a murderous movement. That doesn't mean that everybody who is in that movement is a murderer, but it does mean that you should wonder if they're gonna maybe practice what they preach, in which case, yeah, government
certainly
should be involved.
inspire other people to practice what they preach, even if they won't do it themselves. They are a participant in inciting violence against people. And incitement is not protected speech, folks. And you don't even have protected speech in the UK. So we have it here, but incitement isn't a part of it.
Yeah, maybe this is why, as one of the trolls says, Razi doesn't understand American values. Okay, thank you for your feedback. All right.
I understand American values, pal, and I can tell you right now, you don't understand American values. If we were to sit down and have a conversation about what American values are, how much you want to bet you don't know what the fuck you're talking about? Take me up on it. I'll bet you. I'll bet you money. Let's do it. Whenever you're ready, me and you. But
Um,
I don't think we have the time to deal with this stupidity today, so we might have to save your questions or your thoughts about what American values are next week, and maybe I can uh, give you an attitude adjustment.
yes, and not like a John Cena attitude adjustment, but you mean a verbal one. But yeah,
Yes, a purple one, John
yeah.
Cena.
By the way, people, yeah, if you have such questions and comments, I know I'm giving trolls basically a free platform just because it's entertaining. But yeah, super chat, and then there's a higher likelihood that your comment will be read. Although we are not guaranteeing that the fact that you send a super chat does not guarantee it will be read. So yeah, just and that is especially true of troll super chats. One of the trolls says, "How does it feel that most people in the chat do not believe your hasbara?" Fantastic. Keep it
Bara.
coming.
I I know when I hear that, and he says most people in the chat, he's living a delusion himself. You know you're living in, when you hear that word, hasbara, you're dealing with a pally troll. You just know it.
Look, it is a term used in Israel, but it is absolutely it's we've spoken about it here on the channel. I think it's part of the Israeli society's delusion that all we need is to explain to people who say that they don't want Israel to exist what exactly are the facts on the ground because they don't get it because they see a report like today and this is why they support the Palestinians. No, they don't care about the Palestinians. They know that Hamas actually does this. Hamas a couple of days ago actually massacred, I believe it was 11 people who again broke into a warehouse, but that does not this was a warehouse of humanitarian aid that was supposed to go to the people, and Hamas was holding that. So, yeah, if anybody actually cares about supposedly innocent Palestinians, they are on the side of those people are on the side of Israel. And
I also love how these folks are totally second-handers. Have you noticed that? They gauge truth by whether an internationally recognized organization says it, even though that internationally recognized organization is completely corrupted. They gauge truth on how many people believe something. They're totally weak, second-handed, mindless, zombified human beings because the truth doesn't care if a billion people believe it, pal. One person can believe the truth and a billion people be wrong. And if indeed a minority of folks are on the side of Israel, which I do not think is the case, I think the majority of people are on the side of Israel, but the loudest, shrillest, most psychopathic voices, malignant narcissists that you are, make yourselves known and make your presence seem like it's much bigger than it is. Because people generally don't like to scream in public and carry on in public and do the things that you guys like to do. So you're probably wrong. Most people actually think Israel is in the right. They may be confused about how they should achieve what's right, but they understand that they're the innocent victims in this criminal act by Hamas and the Palestinian people.
all right, two more, and that's maybe it. Somebody says, Ayn Rand Center UK, you are hurting Israel. Stop insulting your allies. And somebody else says, Um, no, old man, we are well informed. Christian Zionism, APAC, Nakba, Balfour Declaration, etc., etc. First of all, I don't know who's the old man, but why are you assuming our gender? This was not stated anywhere. Look, these people, they have uh, no line they won't cross. I don't
What
know
was that
where else.
supposed to mean? What was all that nonsense supposed to mean?
It means that there are certain words,
Jewish,
buzzwords in
Jewish law.
Palestinianism that are just thrown out there and nothing more needs to be said. You don't need to explain what you mean by Balfour Declaration. We know the truth. Balfour Declaration. That's an argument in Palestinianism.
Oh, that's an argument? That's an argument, is it? Okay.
All right.
Well, the guy will have to explain to me at some point why the Balfour Declaration is an argument for anything. But
Yeah. Oh,
that,
of course, Nakba. Nakba is another word thrown out there, word that means
but you know what that means?
disaster, the disaster of the existence of the Jewish state.
Oh, I thought it meant that they're just really butthurt because they started a fight, got their asses kicked, and can't get over it. They seem to have that issue, you know. Islamists seem to have an issue when they get their asses kicked, they never forget it. And they feel like they have to avenge it. Even if they get their asses kicked like 700 years ago, they have to go back there to that place and reconquer it. Otherwise, they're butthurt for generations upon generations upon generations. What is that? That's a psychopathy. It's a sickness. Get over yourself. You got whooped. Now be humble and take your place. Take a state. I don't even think that's possible anymore, but take an independent state and start living like human beings instead of fucking savages, man.
Thank you, Soupycast, for another super chat. Soupycast says ARCUK says trans right. Uh, thanks for the super chat. That was a joke, but we
Wait,
are all in favor of individual rights and an individual's right to do with their body as an adult as they see fit. Although that doesn't mean we necessarily agree with what it is that they're doing. And that is a wider topic for definitely another day. But Mark,
Yes, in a capitalist society, as the Ayn Rand Center UK believes is an appropriate type of society, as a consenting adult, you can pretty much do whatever you want, provided you don't hurt other people. So you're free to be trans, and nobody is going to try to harm you for that. Nobody's going to try to persecute you for that. You can live as you choose, as a free sovereign being. What a thought that is.
yeah.
What an amazing thought. Well, let's make it a reality here. We can make it a reality in America because there's the American Capitalist Party at americancapitalistparty.org. And let's try to make that a reality in the UK with a UK capitalist party to fight these idiots like Jeremy Corbyn and these nutters, these nutters in the parliament who are just virulent anti-Semites. Give them an option. Give them an option of liberty instead of this nonsensical crap that you guys have
I
on
am absolutely for the American Capitalist Party winning the White House in 2028, and for the
too
UK
fast.
Capitalist Party to be founded if it doesn't exist. As long as I don't have to run, I will, I will go and cast my vote. Um, okay, all right. I
Just
think.
hoping to win some local elections first. That's where we're starting, and we'll go from there and build a movement.
And yeah, hopefully some of us will join you right before this island sinks into probably metaphorically, unless global warming is the actual threat we need to worry about. But yeah, uh, anyway, okay, the filibuster has gone on for almost as long as the actual time of the show, but it's always fun, Mark. It's difficult to end these shows, and we don't have the reality show on weekends, so technically we could go until tomorrow at 5:30, but we're not going to. But you will be back here next weekend. We will be back here tomorrow with the Daily Objective and the reality show. I'm Razi Ginzberg on X. If you want to see if anti-Zionism and anti-Semitism are compatible, go to the replies that I get on X and let me know what you think. Thanks, Mark. Thanks everybody for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.
Peace.